Hey guys, welcome back. This is the weekly painting update, episode 2, and I'm pretty excited to share with you guys the couple of models I've painted. Not as many as last time, but I think their size shows why it took longer. So let me open the cases and show you what I've painted. And we're back with the 6 models I've painted. So we're going to start with something very simple. It's the mushrooms, the D&D Shriekers. You guys saw these models, or you saw one of them in the first episode, but looking back and reading more on the lore and just seeing the artwork, I think these mushrooms should have more of a psychedelic color. And just to make them more interesting, as all I had was the beige and the purple tops. So I added Colia green shade to the stem, a pink, like I think it's Volupus pink from Citadel, to the underside of the mushroom and the base, and then added Drakenhof Nightshade to the edge of the mushroom. It kind of looks like a Skittle. I didn't mean for it to look like that, but I am happier with it. I think it pops and helps convey the fungus, uh, I guess, ecology and what they would grow to be like in the Underdark. So this one was repainted, and this is the second one that I actually painted. So having 2 of them, I do feel like I have more than enough D&D Shriekers. These models are actually a little bit pricey. I'd say, ashamed to say, I paid for one of them 20 bucks. It is a solid piece of pewter, but again, it hasn't a lot of detail, so maybe that could justify the price. But it was a fun little project to do, just happy to have them. And these mushrooms, actually, one of them came in a blister with the Shambling mound. This model is beautiful and honestly a pain to paint. So, what a Shambling mound is basically a vegetable man creature. And I love the concept. I think there's a character or hero in DC called Swamp Man, Swamp Thing. So it reminded me of that. But the model itself has such amazing detail. But that's also why I was hating the whole process. All the little leaves I had to pick out and highlight. So life was quite difficult to paint this model. He got a brown primer, and I thought it was gonna help cut a lot of corners. But then, as I applied 3 different green contrasts to all the vegetation, it looked so dark, and I realized my dry brushing would hit all the branches around his frame. So I had to then go and individually highlight all of the leaves. But I think he came out amazing. Such a cool looking model. Now, the only thing I will say is I don't know what's on his belly. I tried looking at other people's paint jobs to determine what it was. So I do know these things on his sides are mushrooms. This thing in his belly, it could have been anything. It could have been some weird mushroom thing. It could potentially be a trunk of a stump. I'm not sure, but I painted it to be more like a honeycomb bright orca color, and he has one on the back of his head too. But such a great model. If you play Wood Elves, or even if you recall a old 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy creature called the Fen Beast, I think you could honestly get away using one of these guys if you don't want to duplicate the models. And the other thing I should note, let me zoom in real fast. Sorry about that, guys. His little nose, mouth trunk, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like a maggot, a elephant trunk, who knows. I ended up painting it purple just to tie in with the D&D Shrieker mushrooms. And of course, made the eyes orange red. I think it does give him a more menacing feel. But such a fun model. And back then, the model, if you bought the Shambling Mound, it would come with one of their Shrieker mushrooms, because in the lore, these guys like to eat these mushrooms. So it's pretty cool how they came in the same blister. price wise, you can actually find this guy pretty commonly on eBay. I'd say between 25 to 40 bucks is pretty fair. He is pretty sizable. This is a 40 mil base. And again, he is a solid chunk of pewter with a lot of good detail. So if you collect wood elves or want a Fen Beast alternative for your 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy games, I would definitely hunt down one of these guys. Really cool model. Moving along, let's go to a non-D&D model, but I'm going to use it for D&D or Otherworld. So this is, I don't want to say Jess Goodwin. Maybe it is, but it's one of the famous ogres from Citadel. This is the ogre shaman or mage, and he's such a cool model. A lot of amazing detail. For example, if you look at his bracelet, he has a mushroom, a little amulet, a skull, the feathers, and just the pose. Actually, my brother Younghyun made a comment. He thought this was a fire belly. So the more I thought about that, he does look like this model was like the source of the inspiration for the Finecast fire belly. Now that's just our assumption, but the more I look at him, the more he does look like it. But really, really amazing model. Really graciously happy I managed to get one. I feel like when I'm looking for certain models, they don't pop up. And then when I'm not looking for them, they're everywhere. But this one came slightly damaged. So what I ended up doing was this is a bat wing in his hair by his ear. It's actually from the Warhammer Fantasy 6th edition giant bat, like the bat swarms. I just sliced one off, shaved it down a bit, and fit it there. So it looks like either he put a real bat wing in his ear or like a trinket, but I think it fits in with the model. Did some non-metallic on the blade, and of course did the non-metallic gold on his earring, that little medallion, his ankle, and then more detail on the back. I'd say why he's blue. Two reasons. There is a ogre shaman in D&D who is blue, and you could buy him from Gale Force 9 for their collector series. So I kind of wanted to pay homage to that. But my second brother, Younghyun, his ogre kingdoms were all these ice-themed blue ogres. So I thought it'd be fun to paint this as basically a nod to his army. But really happy with how he turned out, and excited to use him in games of Otherworld Fantasy and even games of the Old World, as this could perfectly be a butcher or a firebelly. But yeah, really happy to have him, with the collection, and I think he'll actually blend well with my blue Zarts. So pretty excited. Then a model you've seen before. This is a second D&D Meazel, and I actually, like I said before, I found out the Measles have red boils on them, hence the name. But because I painted the first one in this scheme, I kind of kept it. So not much to say other than the non-metallic was extremely fun to do. I just love these poses, especially because the sword is just enormous compared to their size. And actually, this guy is slightly different. Let me get the second guy. I kind of forgot what color I used. Turns out I used Sons of Horus as a base tone on the first Meazel. And then for this one, I used Thunderhawk Blue. So I have determined I have to start writing my paint recipes down, or I end up with slight variations. Now, I don't think it's too bad. I think they both actually still look like they belong together. It was just very shocking when I started varnishing him, and then I had him next to him for a quick photo op, and I realized, they look a little bit different. But very happy to have two Measles. They are quite expensive, to be honest. I've seen them. I actually just bought one for 40 bucks, but I've seen them go for upwards of $60, $65. I'm not sure why. it is a very small miniature, even though I love them and they have a lot of great detail. I do think 65 is pushing it. If you really want one, I would encourage you, but if you have no fondness for this miniature or you think it's ugly, just ignore it. But the difference of this one is it's the variant 2. So you can kind of see what GW does. They keep the same body, but very slightly change certain parts. So between these two, it's just the head and the hair and the mouth. Basically, the head is completely different. But I believe everything else when I painted them looked to be the same. The feet are slightly different. That's because I bent his foot to fit onto the rock a bit differently. But yeah, here's the Meazel I painted with his little cousin. Then the last miniature, which I'm beyond excited to share with you guys, is the Citadel Carrion Crawler. Now, this miniature, I am not going to say it's a golden grail miniature, but I would consider it just below it. This miniature has been sold between $100 to $150. Um, I actually sold one of these guys 2 years ago, new and blister, for $80. But I guess this guy is considered very sought after if you collect the advanced Dungeons and Dragon line. Basically, what a carrion crawler is this caterpillar centipede type of creature that, as per the name Carrion, it eats the dead bodies or waste in dungeons. It's a solitary creature and it's quite large. This is a 50 millimeter base. So if we put him next to the Meazel and the Shambling mound, and I guess this is a more common model, the Ogre, you can see he's actually quite large. And maybe it's because the range was only produced for 18 months, but these models are just very expensive. I was very fortunate. I managed to get one for $30. I think the guy didn't, he mislabeled it, but I know three of them before on eBay sold for over $250, if I'm not mistaken. So if you do want one of these guys, you just have to be patient. It just takes time to find either a good deal, or if you're very desperate, just pay what they're asking for. I will hopefully do an unboxing of one of the ones I have, but this model is actually 9 pieces. So the head is separate, each segment is separate, and then the little butt piece. So you can actually make him in any direction. As you can tell, I made him leaning more in just a very slight tilt towards the his left, I guess. But I'm just so happy to finally have one painted. I feel like growing up, I've seen this model, um, and I've always been jealous of where I could find one of them. So to have one painted makes me feel like I achieved one of my childhood dreams. And then I heard in one of the old White Dwarfs, they made a super carrion crawler where they combined 2 to 3 sets. So this guy was like uber long. I would never do that as these guys are too rare. And even this is one of the very few models that even I wouldn't cut up to do conversions with. I would just keep him. And yeah, I just really love all the little detail this model has. And I followed the original description. So these guys come in a very either pale sickly yellow or a yellow green. And I thought, I'm just having fun with this green tone. It's very similar to the D&D troll I painted from Citadel, and I think the talisman troll. And then I just thought having those yellow eyes would make him very striking. And I'll be honest, I got very lazy for the horns on the back. They're very poorly defined, so I just threw a couple of dry brushes, threw a quick wash and shade, and I called it a day. But yeah, here is the Carrion Crawler. So there you guys have it. That is the weekly painting update. Pretty happy with what got done. Hopefully next week I paint a lot more, I'd call lower tier models or like infantry size stuff. But I hope you guys are enjoying the series. It's helping me keep motivated with painting and reaching certain goals. But until then, guys, please stay safe and have a great week of hobbying.